You are being programmed.
So in this video about mega projects that never got built, I got intrigued some months ago when I did 2 videos on London and I showed you some mega projects that never became in the City of London. I'm showing you some of them on screen now, and I caught the bug, not like I didn't have it already, but you know what I mean, it made me go, wow, is there any other mega projects out there in London, in the UK, around the world that never got built? So in this video it's going to be just that very thing. Can I find any more, cool, intriguing mega projects that never became? So let's go. First up is Sir Christopher Wren's conceived, grand, orderly and symmetrical redevelopment plan for London following the Great Fire in 1666. This was planned, and as you can see, it does have a circuit board-esque type feel to it, really symmetrical as it says, which you would prefer. I don't think it's much different, but has a lot of sharper lines, does remind me a little bit of Paris. So that was intriguing, and there's a few maps coming up that I could find. I just didn't want to overboard on each option that I've picked, so I'll just give you a few images. Some of them are really scarce because obviously they were just competitions sometimes held where people, handed in what they perceived they wanted. So it's intriguing. Next one is the Arc de Triomphe. Now you might be thinking, Paul, it's there. No, there was something else planned for the Arc de Triomphe, and it was this. Now, which would you have preferred, guys? This was the triumphant elephant. Now, it would have been on the exact spot of the Arc de Triomphe, and it was by architect Charles Robert. Now, it never came to fruition, but you can see it's a huge elephant and a water fountain, but you could actually go inside it. So that would have been really interesting to go and see, but never came. Now, was it finance? Who knows? But what's intriguing is they did have a lot of elephants at the time, so that possibly could be a reason why it wasn't chosen. As you can see on screen, I've included this because they had an elephant, and it was called the Elephant of the Bastille, and it was a monument in Paris which existed between 1813 and 1846. So they already had a big elephant. Now they might have just not wanted another one. What's intriguing is, now pardon the pronunciation, is it Les Miserables? They actually have this in the film. What's also caught my wow, that they had one in the Moulin Rouge, and here's some images from the Moulin Rouge of a giant elephant in it, and it's like, wow, they love the elephants in Paris. Next up is Nelson's Column. Now this is where everyone meets when they go on a rally or a protest, and one of the proposed monuments instead of the needle was this sphere, and this was by John Goldicott. Now this, no one's really seen it apart from this image that appeared in a watercolour in 1841, so you can see it. What would you have preferred? I know some people don't like the idea of a sphere, but it looks better than a column, I think. And here's an image that I found, so you can see it is a bit more grandesque in its design, and again would be intriguing to see what it would have been like if this was built instead of the column. So this is what this video's about, guys. It's me just finding its images before or after, if you want to look at it like that way, of what it could have looked like, and it just blows me away. I just really do think it's interesting. This one is the Sydney Harbour Bridge, and there was a competition held, and 6 people or 6 companies sent designs. I want to show you a couple. This one is by Dorman Long and Co. Not really too much different from what is actually there now. Also, you had McClintic Marshall Products Company design, and this is what they sent in, so not much different there. But what the one that actually had me going, oh, I wish they built this, was this one, guys. F. Ernest Stowe design, and it was a 3-way bridge. How beautiful would that have been on the skyline? To me, it's actually breathtaking. I really do like this design, and I do wish in some reality that it was built. But can you imagine this in Sydney Harbour? It's a wow, isn't it, guys? I know some people don't like me going wow wow, but to me that is a more breathtaking design, and what sure would have cost a lot of money to build this. What do you guys think on that one? This one reminds me of the Westminster airport that I showed in that video. Now this is a rooftop airport by William Zeckendorf, 1945. To aid congestion, the theory behind this was it would have created more for sure, wouldn't it? But still, an above water terminal that would have stretched from 24th Street to 71st Street along the Hudson River. It would have contained ferries, cruises, you name it, plus the airport on the roof. And like I said, it was supposedly gonna ease congestion. It created so much more. This one, I didn't know this had a name change, but Blackwell Island, now known as Roosevelt Island, what I know of, there was plans to turn it into what we can see in this image now. It was like a utilising ideal municipal focus of Greater New York, like it looked like a temple of sorts, but it would still maybe look better than what there is now. And this is the proposed design. So you can see it would have been more surreal, wouldn't it, on the skyline, the mixture of what we can see today. It's very intriguing. I know I've used that word a lot, but it is interesting to me anyway, that some of these designs that didn't happen. Now you got this Coney Island one. This is another one that has got me attention. It was the Sphere, and this was going to be one of the biggest structures raised by man using steel, glass, etc. And it was done by architect Samuel Freed for Coney Island. 700-foot dome. It would have had, the usual parks and casinos and everything, but the project experienced delay after delay, and in 1908 the tower was revealed to be an elaborate fraud. Whether that's true or not, I just don't know. But as you can think, would this have been better to look at, and what's there now? I've never been, so anyone who's been to Coney Island, would have this been better like this? Who knows? Now the next one is, most people know it, but I had to put it in because I do like it. In 1911 there was a competition to design a Washington DC memorial to President Abraham Lincoln, and some of these are all to John Russell Pope, the architect, but I can't say for 100%, but they're still intriguing to me. And it just show you that some photos, this is not a real photo obviously, but this is what's been banned around the community, and some people are actually using these as real images. Now this is one of the designs. Then you had a Mayan temple design, you then have a pyramid coming up, and then a ziggurat. But this is what we all have to be wary of, and I always say to people, if you're ever unsure about a picture, just run a reverse image search, and if there's not much on it, you do know then it's fake. One of the most famous ones going around lately was some guy in a forest called AI, and it was like, AI, come on dudes, just do your research. So these are some of the designs, again, for the memorial. Would it have been better on what's there now? I just don't know. I'll leave it up to you guys. Now we head back over to Russia, and this is Vladimir Tatlin's tower. In 1919 he wanted to memorialize the Russian Revolution, and he designed this. It's the Tatlin Tower, or the Monument to the Third International. Mouthful that, but as you can see, it would have been definitely awe-inspiring to see on the skyline. Now this supposedly is a fake CIG image, old photograph showing you this. This is what we have to be wary about. This one is like the Sydney Harbour Bridge. This would have been so beautiful on the eye to see. Now you might be wondering, yeah, it's a bridge, nothing too fancy about this, Paul. It would have been a wow, guys. As you can see, it is by a Raymond Hood, and in 1929 he wanted to design the skyscraper bridges. Yep, skyscrapers in bridges to house schools and buildings and everything. You name it, it would have been included in this, and to me it would have been awe-inspiring on the city skyline. So we're heading over to LA, Los Angeles. Now this is the town hall, the Civic Center complex. This is obviously what's there now, but this is what was planned. Now this is a design by Frank Lloyd Wright, and obviously in 1925 he entered a contest to design a new Civic Center for the Los Angeles Times. Basically they ran the competition. Now which would you have preferred? It's so dystopian, isn't it? It's like on a grand scale. Would have changed the skyline for sure. Very beautiful though. This one is another interesting one. This was what's known as the Mother's Monument. It's in Washington DC. I think it was tied to the suffragette movement. And it was planned obviously for the Washington DC, but it would have stood 297 feet tall if built. But it was never built due to the resistance of, is it the US Commission of Fine Arts? I think it was just mainly political. They didn't want to build it because of the suffragette movement. But again, look at the size on it, because you can see the scale to people walking up the stairs. This is a World War I or II memorial in Kansas City. It's obviously built, but this is what was planned on the site or very near it, and it was to Lady Liberty. Which would you prefer, guys? The phallic tower, or would you basically prefer this type of monument that they would have built? I prefer this just because there's a lot more going on. You can walk around and see more symbols and etc. So it's intriguing, this one. And obviously this would have been built. These are what people call domes, but I'm talking about in this little clip of depth scrapers. These were planned all around. Well, were they planned or are they here? That's the intriguing thing. So we have domes, and these are called depth scrapers to defy earthquakes. Now what's got my attention is the sun at the top, because obviously people are talking about the sun not being what it was. And just look at this, it's like the old Egyptian technique for reflecting light, like the sun simulator. So it's intriguing, isn't it, when you think of things just out of the box. So you can see depth scrapers defy earthquakes, and this one was in Japan. And caught my attention because of obviously there's a lot of people who look into and research domes. Are they already here in regard to these, or are these just other images and designs that were never built and it's just basically talk? Who knows, but it's intriguing. What's coming up now is one that was supposed to be in Manhattan. One's in colour and one's in black and white for you, and this was basically built under Manhattan. It really does get you thinking, because when I see these depth scrapers I automatically think of Raccoon City and the Hive. It just really drawn to this, and as we know, they're building it all underground, and are these depth scrapers just basically old domes? Gets you thinking, doesn't it? So we're back in the UK, and not too far from me is the Liverpool Metropolitan Cathedral, or as we call it, Paddy's Wigwam. Now this is what's been there now since the 60s, 70s. If my brain goes back that far, which it wouldn't because I wasn't born, but hey, you know what we mean. The sayings that we use, guys. But this is what was going to get built. Now this was designed by British architect Sir Edward Luton. Now he boasted this design would have been the largest dome in the world, and would have been basically the second largest church. Now would have been one design, and it was so changed the skyline in Liverpool. Work began in 1933, but with costs skyrocketing and war looming, the construction stopped, and in the 60s-70s we got what we got now, Paddy's Wigwam. Now this is an interpretation of CGI that what it would have looked like, and you can see it dominates the skyline. There's a few images coming up now of how it would have looked, and as you can see it changes the skyline for sure, guys. And it's so much better than what we've got now. That's my personal opinion. This is in the museum, just showing you the actual design that was going to get built. The only thing that got built from Luton's design is what's known as the crypt. Now this is what's underneath. Now some will say, was this already here and we were just building above it? Who knows? It's down for your own personal perspectives on what you believe in this design. Was this already there and it's just a cover up of what's hidden underground? I'll leave that up to you guys. But as you can see, this is the only remnants of what they say is left. This was the only thing that was built. And another intriguing thing is it has a rolling stone door to represent the tomb of Christ, and it actually works. It moves and comes round, and you can see it's huge. So just something a little extra for you in this bit. Right guys, we're heading back to Russia. This time it's a huge awe-inspiring building. It would have been in the early 1930s. Neoclassical architect Boris Iofan won a competition to build Moscow's Palace of the Soviets, and you can see these are CGI images of what it would have been. It would definitely been jaw-dropping. It would have been gigantic at 1,624 feet, topped with a huge statue of Lenin. I believe that was over 100 feet in height also. Now work began in 1937 but stopped during World War II and was later abandoned. Now so you got some images coming up, some CGI and artist renditions of what it actually looked like, and all these buildings would have been inspiring, jaw-dropping, basically what they intended to be, to show the power of these countries. Now did he actually have the technology to build them? This is another question indeed, but who knows. Now the only thing that was built was the foundations. They later became an open air outdoor swimming pool for most of its, say 30 years, 40 years, and it was called the Moskva swimming pool. I believe that's shut down now, but that's what became of the Palace of the Soviets. We are heading to Rome now, and this would definitely have changed Rome's skyline for sure. Argentinian-based Italian architect Mario Platini designed this 1,068 feet monument to fascism, Mole Littoria. Now this, if built, would have been epic. It was intended to house the Italian Parliament, a hotel, a library, and so much more. And you can see its opulence and how big it is, and it would dwarf everything in Rome. So that's another interesting one. And again, you have to say, can these people actually, did he ever intend to build these, or was it just, you know, changing his story? Because a lot of people use these images for actual proof of these buildings that were destroyed. It's crazy. Back to America now guys, and we have what is known as democracy uniting the world. It was supposed to be going to be in San Pedro, California. As you can see, it's a huge monument, about 480 feet it would have been, and it was designed in 1954 to inspire Asian countries to embrace democracy. So it never happened. They mustn't have been bothered. But as you can see, it reminds you of the Oscars, doesn't it? And that type of statue. So that would have been, I think it would have still been better to look at than whatever is there now, if there is anything here. Now the clue to this one is behind him. Look behind you, found you. So this is basically an engineer called Buckminster Fuller. Now he conjured up a geodesic dome spanning Midtown Manhattan. Yep, you got that right. He wanted to put a dome over Manhattan, and this is roughly the only image you can find of it. Now it would have taken up 2 miles of the island. A mile high dome would have warmed the city in winter, cooled it in the summer, and cleaned the air. Now it gets you back thinking of things like The Simpsons, and I think the series is called Under the Dome. So you know, there is precedent of this idea. And this is an intriguing one for you people out there who believe you live under a dome. Just really intriguing, isn't it? So we are back over into the UK. This one would have been the Walking City in London, UK, obviously. But look at this, guys. Walking cities. Now in the mid-1960s, architect Ron Heron designed the Walking City, which consisted of numerous immense pod-like megastructures on legs. This would have been crazy. Now he wanted them to basically have the ability to walk from location to location. It's intriguing, isn't it? Can you imagine this on the skyline, what these cities walking around? Now it reminds me of the film Mortal Engines, doesn't it, in a way? And if you're a bit older, you can think of War of the Worlds as well, of those pod-like alien entities that are walking around. I know there's different numerous versions of them, but you can see my point. It does remind you of that, doesn't it? And these, he wanted these to walk freely around the city. How they would have done that, who knows? But as you can see from the images, they are quite unique in shape. Here's one that are slightly different than what you've been seeing. This is another rendition of that. But can you imagine these walking around the city, or any city that, you know, you'd think you've been invaded. So we're heading back to Japan now, and with mega projects that never happened. Now this would have been a design from the Teisai Construction Corporation, and it debuted its groundbreaking Exceed 4000 in 1995. An incredible 13,123 feet tall, and as you can see in the computer generated images, it would have been mad. It would have been 800 stories high and accommodated up to 1 million people. Think about that number in one place. Now it was taller than Mount Fuji, so you can see it's a wower. I know people are thinking at home, Paul, this one's definitely like the Tower of Babel, or Babel to some guys. This has nothing on the Tower of Babel, and that's coming up now. I'm going to finish with that. This is in Japan also. It's known, funny enough, as the Tokyo Tower of Babel, and would have been 10,000 meters tall. Think about that, 10,000 meters tall. You thought the Exceed was tall at 4,000 meters. This would have been 10,000 meters and accommodated 30 million people, and would have taken 100 to 150 years to build. How crazy would have that been on a skyline, guys? Right, that's it, guys. So please, if you like it, give it a thumbs up, and even better, share it. Guys, I'm not on social media anymore, so I need the support, and you guys have my back. So please like, share and subscribe to the video and other videos that you really enjoy. And if you want to go a little bit better, I do have Buy Me a Coffee link, and people have supported me with that so far, and I want to say a big thank you to everyone. It's humbling, especially in this time when there's not much money going around. It really does help, and it just makes me humble and emotional. So guys, thank you for the love and the support. So please like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon.